Senator Urso here on Senate Bill 550, enact relating to animals and animal husbandry dogs, and also on 551, cruelty to animals. Senator, however you want to proceed, welcome to Senate Judiciary.
Thank you. I'd like to introduce both bills, if that's okay with you, Mr. Chairman. Well, today, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, I'm here on two bills, Senate Bills 550 and 551, two bills that are very important to me that relate to animal welfare. Let's start with Bill 550, which would amend Title IV, Chapter 13 of the Rhode Island General Laws, entitled Dogs, a topic that's of great interest and concern to many of us, I'm sure. Some of you may be aware of the recent dialogue about how we treat our dogs. Right now, we consider them property, so dog equals toaster equals television equals bicycle. Or should we treat our dogs like the living, breathing, beloved beings that occupy a central role in our homes and families? Now, this bill doesn't rise to that level, but it's with that thought in mind that I have attempted to address some of the anemic penalties that are doled out to individuals who fail to provide an adequate level of humane care to dogs in their possession or who mistreat dogs. Now, 41313, which deals with unlawful removal of the collar from the neck of a licensed dog, theft of a licensed dog, poisoning or destruction, which is an odd word, of a dog, are met with the paltry and insulting penalty at a minimum of $10. Now, to me, $10 is not much of a penalty. It's a fee that someone could pay if they have a beef with their neighbor or want to retaliate against an ex or any other motivation that would lead someone to mistreat an animal in any of these ways. And we need to change this right away. So this bill proposes a tenfold increase in those penalties, bringing the minimum to $100, which some might still say is too low, and the maximum to $1,000. And then it proposes a second or subsequent offender penalty at a minimum of $1,000 and a maximum of $5,000. And I understand the concern about, is this a felony? But I mean, if someone were to poison or destroy my dog, I certainly would want them to be treated as a criminal. And really, if you think of it, some of the purebred dogs that people acquire have a value higher than $1,500. So theoretically, their theft would rise to the level of felony grand larceny, and that is a felony, and those penalties would be much steeper than these. Now, under 41342, entitled Care of Dogs, which deals with tethering or confining a dog to restrict its movements, use of a choke collar or a chain that's too heavy or too large for a dog that may weigh it down, overexposure to cold or inclement weather, or failure to provide a dog with adequate food or water. The current penalty is minimum $100, which again, someone may feel is too low, maximum $1,000 with imprisonment up to 11 months. Here, I'm proposing to add a second or subsequent offense penalty at a minimum $1,000, maximum $10,000, with up to 2 years imprisonment. And this is important, Mr. Chairman, because in Pawtucket, perhaps other municipalities, we have individuals who are being arrested 2 and 3 times for these same violations. And we need to make the law a deterrent from this behavior. And we need to assess these penalties in a way that aligns with the severity of these crimes. And you may recall that within the last year, we had a man who was starving and dehydrating dogs and tossing their carcasses into the curbside bin. Now, a second offense on something like this is far worse than a $250 penalty would I think, recommend. And so I think it's really important that as a society we make a statement that we're not going to continue to allow people to treat animals in our community in this way. 550 also proposes to prohibit the intentional overfeeding of a dog. This is something we've seen in Pawtucket with breeders who overfeed the sire to make it appear more fierce in an attempt to drive up the value of puppies. This is detrimental to the health, comfort, mobility, the heart of a dog. And when those dogs are surrendered, and I believe Lieutenant Scahan can speak to this specifically, first of all, they have to be restored to health by the shelter, which requires veterinary care and an extended stay, which is not only additionally stressful on the dog, but it also is costly for the municipality to obtain the necessary veterinary care. Now, to be clear, this does not pertain to the loving pet parent who gives little Daisy too many biscuits, okay? This is an intentional act that is motivated by financial gain. And lastly, on 550, I've proposed an animal care task force that would meet for 1 year quarterly. The animal control and care professionals who can look more closely at the regulations, which have many duplications, conflicts, things that perhaps make doing the job more difficult, talk about the challenges, and make recommendations on how we can improve our legislative tools to better deter neglect and abuse. Bill 551, which would amend Title 4, Chapter 1, entitled Cruelty to Animals, which is a very difficult subject for those of us who love and adore our animals. And again, something as a society that we need to take seriously. The bill refers to unnecessary suffering, torture, cruelty of any kind, and there is no necessary case of this. Also refers to inadequate living conditions, exposing animals to toxic substances, and the hazardous accumulation of animals or hoarding. What we're proposing to do here is to empower our enforcement officials to take immediate possession of an animal in a case of arrest, citation, or clear evidence of cruelty, abuse, neglect, and to speed up the due process with a hearing that notice is given within 48 hours. And the advocates can explain more about this, but why this is important is right now the law allows for a protracted limbo during which dogs remain at animal shelters for a year or more. It's very stressful to the animals. They're kind of caught in between court conferences, plea negotiations, the typical cancellations and postponements, and it's difficult to rehome a dog when it develops behavioral problems as a result of this. And lastly, the bill proposes to increase the maximum penalty for any of these cases of cruelty from $1,000 to $5,000 because, again, the law needs to be a deterrent. It starts here, and we need to do everything we can to stop these instances of cruelty in our communities, in our state. So I thank you very much for your attention. I respectfully ask you to give every consideration to the bill. I'm happy to discuss after the fact ways of making it stronger, better, and that's it. Thank you very much.